Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls, doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean-wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from our mom's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I am your co-host here with my good friend and other co-host, Michael Schneider, in the ugliest Christmas sweater I think I've ever laid my eyes on. That thing is that thing. If for our listeners that do not watch the live, I really wish you guys need to go on YouTube and check out the sweater. That thing is hideous. But Schneider, how are you doing, ugly sweater aside?
I'm doing good, man. I am fired up about this game. The reason for
I think Snyder's having some technical difficulties, but we are here. Might both be having some technical difficulties, but we are here on a very important episode. Sorry, Snyder, you're back with us? So how are you doing, buddy?
Good, brother. Again, fired up for some Bears versus Packers revenge game. But yeah, today at work, we are having an ugly Christmas sweater. A winner gets $500. That's what the general manager said. So I had to go in. I had to have increase my odds there. And look, just hideous. This is the hideous thing I ever see. I'm in the store walking around this thing, and I'm getting looks like, oh, that thing is disgusting.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Snyder is a car salesman, and if I ever saw a car salesman in that, there's no chance I'm approaching them. I'm finding a different salesman because obviously there's a contest and money involved here, but the judgment there, that's a little bit too ugly for my team. If someone else wins, Snyder, you gotta take a picture and show us who actually had the uglier sweater, because that thing is not the kindest on the eye.
Yeah, it's gross.
But we are here to preview the Bears' most important. I mean, Snyder, this is the most important Bears game since the Eagles playoff game. Like, I don't really know. Like, I hope I didn't say that the last time the Bears and Packers played, but like everything is on the line. You know, whether that's being a potential shot at the first seed in the NFC and the NFC North. They're just getting a home game in the playoffs straight up. And the Bears, for the Bears case, and the Packers, I guess, you know, there is not a reasonable chance, but a decent chance that one of these teams could miss the playoffs, given how tight of a race this is right now. So there's just so much at stake for this upcoming Bears game.
Yeah, so like for a small stretch, I was dreaming about the first seed, having a bye, then hosting a playoff game. Don't think that will happen, but the division is still in play, and you need to win that, host a home game, and maybe you face another NFC North opponent, and hopefully you win this game, and it could be at home. That's my way of thinking. And then just again, to beyond that, you have to secure a playoff spot to even begin with. So again, huge implications. And then more importantly, I want my fucking revenge against this Packers team.
Yep, and that's something I didn't even mention. This is obviously a huge rivalry game, that actually has some fuel now, where there are stakes, where this is a really, really important game. And it ended so close last game. I mean, the Bears looked dead in the water in the first half. They obviously rallied back. Our recap episode did a great job. Or not a great job. I don't want to give ourselves too much credit, but we went through and kind of the nature of that game, the up and down nature, why the Bears were able to come back. And I think you can take a lot of what happened in that game into this game. Obviously, it's not going to be one for one. There's going to be different differences. I think the Packers and the Bears are going to make their adjustments to kind of hone in what was working in those games. So yeah, why don't we start there, Snyder? I think that when you go back and watch that game, the Bears struggled so much. Well, actually, before we start there, these are going to be two different looking teams from last game. The Bears still won't have Rome Odunze like they didn't in the past game, but they also won't have Luther Burden, which makes a deep receiving core a lot thinner. So the Bears are probably going to be throwing out in 3 wide receiver sets, DJ Moore as their number 1, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Devin Duvernay, maybe a combination of Devin Duvernay or Janae Walker. I mean, Senator, those are 2 huge losses heading into.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. you miss Rome because, again, best man beater of the bunch. And you also miss Burden because he kind of been fighting his way. And then when he gets the ball in his hands, the guy is just a football player, right? The way he could stop and go, make guys miss. He's just a home run threat ability. You are missing that there, but this is a game where, I know the stat sheet and I know it's been a crowded room. Hasn't been favorable to DJ Moore, but this is the time where your $20 million plus cap hit needs to step up. They need to get him involved, and then they go from there. But then also, this is the time where maybe you should feature Colston Loveland a little bit more. Your number 10 overall pick tight end. You know, send him down the field, get the mismatches going. So we definitely miss Rome and Burden, but we have some dudes, right? It's not a depleted wide receiver group like Bears teams of the past. You still have some dudes. I mean, you get Swift involved more in the pass game. Like, you have enough weapons for it to be an excuse to hold you back. Is how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that, Snyder. And this is not like the Packers defense has obviously been very good, but they're not like this like man coverage heavy team that really challenge your receivers' individual talent. Maybe they'll change some of their game plan because the Bears are so thin at wide receiver heading into this game. So maybe they will be more comfortable running man coverage. But if you just look over the last 5 weeks, Football Insights does a great job at tweeting like coverage trends from the last 5 weeks or 4 weeks. I think that's very telling on kind of previewing the Bears' next game because teams tend to change throughout the season rather than just looking at the season as a whole. The Packers run some of the fewest man coverage in the NFL. I think they were in the third or fourth least amount of man coverage. And then if you just look at like the main coverages they run, it's a lot of cover 3, it's a lot of cover 4, it's a lot of cover 6. What do all of those coverages have in common? Their corners are playing really far back. So again, this is going to be more about beating zone and having the right plays dialed up against the given coverages, and just the Packers being disguising coverages and being tricky. I think that's more of the style of the defense they want to play. That's also to say, Snyder, the Bears obviously offense is going to be missing some pieces, but we talked about this on the last episode. The Packers lose their best player on their team in Micah Parsons that gave the Bears so much fits. When you go back and watch that first game, just everything the Packers were able to do from a protection to break down the Bears' protection because the Bears had to show so much attention to Micah Parsons. It really just didn't allow the Bears to function on those third downs and those third and longs. And obviously you want to stay out of those situations. Those are never ideal for any team, but the Bears had no prayer. And that's kind of what led to the adjustment in the second half where the Bears just stopped drop back and passing altogether. I think they had like 79% of their plays were play action pass, or 79% of their passes were play action in the second half. And what they did was they just kept a bunch of extra blockers in and they had less receivers out in the route. And they were just not going to be wrong in protection because they had more bodies there. And, that has its pros and cons. The Bears made it work. I think it's a hard way to function throughout the course of a game because you're going to be in third and longs. You're going to have situations where you have to drop back and pass, and you'd like to have more eligible options to where you're not having to keep that many guys in protection. But maybe that the Bears will be able to do that now without Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, again, not rooting for that, but you can't stress enough how much this changes it from the last game, right? I felt like in that first half, you were kind of coaching just a little bit scared, but you're definitely scared of Micah Parsons, and rightfully so. And you're really just trying to run at him, or run away from him. Or it was like the screen game, like you weren't seeing them try to push it down the field, but you understand the guy was just generating pressure, or again, you were throwing 2 at him, and then another guy had an easier look, or someone wasn't holding up. So it just really, really wrecked the operation from the offensive standpoint with Micah Parsons on the field. And, in this game, I want it to be a continuation of that second half where you got more aggressive. Again, like you said, you can't live or die by the play action, but I think you could still continue what you were doing in the Browns game where you were way more balanced early on. And then you got to lean on the run game later on. But then you've seen Caleb playing on time, very quick. And then you've seen his touch and his ball placement. We're totally in sync with that. So again, now without Micah Parsons, I think you can lean into that, balanced game script that you did against the Browns.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a big problem for the Bears early in the Packers game. They could not get the run game going. And I think beyond just like not being able to get the run game going, they kept making too many mistakes where they were putting themselves behind the sticks, where they kind of had to throw the run game out in that first half. The second half was totally different. They had one of the best success rates of the week when they were able to run the ball in the second half. They really got that going. And I'm hoping that they won't shoot themselves in the foot and they will be able to lead on that run game, because that's when this Bears offense is at their best, when they can balance the two, when they can keep defenses on their toes. The beauty of Ben Johnson's offense is everything looks so similar, yet they do different things out of those similar looks. So that's kind of what you're hoping to see in this game, that they're able to establish the run, then play action off it. And they don't, you don't want them to have to do that, but that's what they want to do. And I really think, Snyder, the breaking point of this game, because I don't expect, I mean, the Packers were pretty exotic with Micah Parsons. They don't blitz a whole lot, but again, it's a lot of simulated pressures. It's a lot of things to make your protection wrong. Like there was a play in the second half of the Bears Packers game where they have everyone up at the line of scrimmage, and that's a very common thing for this Packers defense. Those specific plays, the Bears' ability to block those plays up, I think, will be the make or break point of this game, because I think we're going to see it even more, right? When the Packers have everyone up on the line of scrimmage, the Bears slide their protection to Micah Parsons' side. He drops out into coverage. There's a free rusher coming on the other side. Like those type of plays, having a better plan in terms of the passing game, having better outlets, finding where to throw against those looks. That's on Caleb and that's on Ben Johnson and the play design. And then ultimately too, I'm expecting to see a lot more 5-man pressures. When Micah Parsons went out against the Broncos, we saw that a lot more too. They brought, an extra body to create pressure, because they don't have, outside of Parsons, they don't have guys that can win one-on-ones, kind of like the Bears at a really high level. So I think they're going to try to trick the Bears. I think they're going to try to fool them. And whether or not the Bears can pick those exotic looks up, I think will be a huge make or break point of this game for the Bears offense.
Yeah, and I think they'll be prepared, right? We talk about it through and through. Ben Johnson is in that film room, dialing it up, definitely watching how they were without Parsons for the remaining of that game. And I'm just so confident that he will have answers to deliver there. In this team, how they're prepared week in and week out, and how exotic they are, and just the crazy things they could do to a defense to keep them on their heels and really, be so unpredictable. I know we're banged up with Roman Burden, but you add that to the weapons, and I think the Bears have enough weapons to be more than fine. Again, I think you get DJ Loveland involved, maybe the running backs a little bit more in the passing game. I think Ben Johnson is going to be able to take advantage of that. I mean, if you're rushing 5, it's going to open up more for your pass catchers.
Exactly. That's where I think Caleb will have to be on point. And then obviously, then them to have that good game plan around. I'm sure we'll see a lot more Swift, because once teams do, and that's kind of the thing with this Packers defense, they do allow their secondary and second level players to cover guys in isolation. They're just really far off the line of scrimmage. And I think the Broncos did a really good job of getting after them, really isolating weak links on this defense and kind of taking their shots down the field. Cortland Sutton had a huge game against the Packers because they were able to isolate those corners, and those corners are aggressive, right? Will they be as aggressive without Micah Parsons? Who knows? But they when they see stuff flash in front of their eyes, they're biting down. They're trying to jump routes. So I think you could also get after them in that way, especially if the Bears are able to hold up better than they did in the first matchup in pass protection. So I think there's going to be opportunities to take their chances and really isolate some of the weaker coverage links in this game. Also worth mentioning that I don't know if they ruled him out yet, but Evan Williams, who's been really good for them, their safety, he's questionable, or I think he might be doubtful. So again, that's another huge loss. There's definitely weaknesses on this defense to attack. They have not been as good in recent weeks. And I think that Ben Johnson could smell blood in the water even more so without Parsons, obviously.
Yeah, and again, I think if Caleb plays on time and quick, I want to see him attack those corners more than they did that first game. I think DJ Moore is really good at the catch point, and I think Colston Loveland, I keep saying it, has the best ball skills of the bunch, and probably the biggest mismatch on the team. I want to see them down the field a little bit more. Those intermediate, anticipation throws, like a continuation off that Browns game. I think you can get really involved, get them really involved to attack the secondary. The key is you just got to play quick and on time. But then I think it also opens up, kind of like that screen work for Swifty and Monangai too. So I think there's enough horses in the stable to attack this, injured Packers team.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping the same as well, especially with the style of defense the Packers play. The last kind of notes I had for this offense were that the Packers are actually they struggle to defend the pass out of 12 personnel. I'm expecting Snyder to see a bunch of tight ends on the field for most of this game. I think it's going to be like I think the Bears will probably be majority multi-tight end sets. That's how they played in that second half. That's when things started to click because that really does help them balance out the run and pass game. And I think the Packers defense is, especially if they're missing, second level players. I think that's a really good way to get after them. They're league average at defending the run out of 13 personnel, but they're actually really good at defending the pass when teams are in 13 personnel, but they've been much worse defending the pass out of 12 personnel. I think that allows you to kind of play the matchups with Colston Loveland and DJ Moore when both those guys are on the field, and you're getting a more favorable kind of defensive look from the Packers. So I'm expecting to see a bunch of heavy personnel packages that allow the Bears to kind of lean into the run game and then marry that pass game, what we've continued to talk about, which is such a huge element of Ben Johnson's offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you get it going, man. I think Swift last week had over 5 yards per carry. Mm-hmm. You lose Micah Parsons and you open up, what you can do as an offense. You feel good about that, continuing that. Maybe you get Monangai a little bit more involved than you did last week. I understand feeding the hot hand, don't get me wrong, but Swift looks really. I think Swift had his best game last week, just creating and just seeing him kind of just like dash back and forth, take it up, make some guys miss. I think if you can lean into that, and like we always say, I think you build off the play action with that. And I love Caleb in play action. I think that guy, he plays so decisive off that play action to where he gets through that drop back. He lets it rip. And then you see the display of his just natural arm talent. But you're only going to get the most production out of that is if you're continuing, that productive EPA and then yards per carry in the run game. And the Bears have. Right. So you definitely want to see that going. I know the Bears are probably going to try to get that going early on. I think the last game we're maybe a little bit guilty of really, really trying to lean into that a little bit too heavy. Even though I understand it and I want to lean into it, just be a little bit more balanced there to kind of keep them on their heels.
Yeah, I'm curious to see too what this Bears run game is. Can they be more explosive? Because like you said, like it was kind of an up and down run game at first, and then it got a lot better throughout the game. They were really efficient, but it's crazy, Senator. Their longest run in that first Packers game was 9 yards, and that is like not what we're accustomed to with this Bears team. They've been one of the most explosive run games in the league, and I think that kind of just goes with where the Packers' strengths lie. Their defensive line actually is not like a great run defending unit, but their secondary and linebacker play is really, really good against defending the run. So like they'll allow you past that first level. Not a lot of teams get very much further. So can the Bears find ways to be more explosive? Because a lot of the run game last time was just a lot of at-you runs. It was like inside zone, duo, wham, like they were just kind of running right at the Packers, which it worked, right? Like it was helping them stay on schedule. I thought it was a really good adjustment in the second half. But can they find ways to be more explosive? Can they find ways to get DeAndre Swift out on the perimeter. Maybe that's not the best way to approach it because the Packers, like we said, they have really good linebackers. They're really fast at the second level. I'm curious to see because if they are able to be explosive in the run game, I think that's just would be such a huge advantage for this Bears team because then the Packers wouldn't really have a whole lot of answers else. That's something the Packers have done a really good job at shutting down.
Yeah, and I mean, and it can be for the Bears. I want to see more shit that we did like against the Eagles, where you have like two guards pulling, and you got your tight end in motion the opposite direction, and then you're going, inside, and you see Colson Loveland putting a 3-tech on his ass. Like there's like stuff like exotic like that. You want to see more of that, and then that's when you can build off of that, right? You do that, and then you do a play action with Caleb, and he's rolling out the opposite direction and someone's wide open over the top. Like that's the cool factor of having Ben Johnson as your head coach, right? Just doing insanely exotic thing, but then he'll do something like that, and then it'll be the same formation, and it's just something totally different, right? Like that's the cool thing when you have just this crazy, psycho, innovative offensive mind that keeps the defense just having no idea what he's doing. Like you even said last week, we were doing some Greg Roman pistol stuff. Like no one would have ever expected that. And then you might see it next week. You might not at all this week. And that's the cool thing that they're game planning for it. But Ben Johnson might even have even more tricks in his bag. Maybe you dive into the trick plays. This year you've seen the flea flicker. You've seen the fake flea flicker. Like, this is the game. The division's on the line. The playoffs is on the line. Where you got to treat it almost as that, or you got to dig in those bag of tricks. We've seen it for years playing against them. Maybe now's the time we do get even more exotic.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see Ben Johnson's best stuff, right? Like I like whether they're trick plays or like parts of the playbook we haven't seen. I'm expecting to see some new stuff, especially with the Broncos. Like just watching them last week have so much success against this offense. I'm sure they're going to take pieces of that game plan and try to implement them here in this second time around. And I think too another element of what I want to see is if the Bears can use. We talk about the Packers defense wants to be exotic. They don't blitz a whole lot, but they want to throw off your protection. I think a way you don't allow them to do that is if you just stay in no huddle and you just keep them in the same defensive look over and over and over again. Don't allow them to get in these weird defensive formations that make it harder for your offensive line. I'm curious to see if they want to lean into that. And then ultimately too, I think that like just passing guys off in pass protection too will be so crucial in this game because we talked about it. They don't really have a whole lot of game records without Parsons. So I think ultimately, Snyder, I think that the three main bullet points I would highlight is can the Bears pass off and correctly block up those weird defensive looks for the Packers? And then ultimately, too, can they establish the run? Can they be more explosive in the run? That's kind of the same bullet point. Be more explosive than they were last time. And then ultimately, too, how do the Bears function in these heavier personnel packages? Because I think that's where they're going to lean with this game. That's kind of what I think the game comes down to on offense. On defense, I think we're going to see a totally different game plan. And I'm hoping to see a totally different game plan because we talked about it on the recap episode. The Bears were absolutely terrible when they blitzed Jordan Love. They had a lower pressure percentage on blitzes than they did on non-blitzes. They allowed a full point of EPA per pass, and including 2 long touchdowns when they did blitz. They allowed 11.5 passing yards per play on blitzes. That is not what you can go in and do this again to Jordan Love. He's been shredding the blitz all year. It doesn't matter who it's been. But the Bears especially don't have the horses. If you have the Denver Broncos defense and you're confident your pass rush is going to get there in like 2.5 seconds and you have Patrick Surtain to play man coverage, okay, go ahead, play a lot more aggressive. But the Bears do not have that caliber of defense. And they were actually okay when they did not blitz. The Bears defense was much better when they didn't blitz. They had an EPA per pass of negative 0.34. They only allowed 6.3 yards per pass play, which is not great. And they had a higher pressure percentage. So I think we're going to see a more conservative game plan. And I think they need to be more conservative because what they were doing last time just flat out wasn't working.
Tom, I'm gonna touch on. There's one thing. Your first bullet point, going back on the offense, when you said like the Packers kind of have those like exotic formations, it gave me PTSD during the Matt Eberflus era. Right, he used to always talk about, hey, this team effort, effort, effort. They practice hard, but the criticism was always preparation. They always looked lost against the Packers in those scenarios where the offensive linemen weren't picking up the right guy, and you'd have these open looks like on stunts and everything. Aren't you so glad that you have the Ben Johnson as a head coach who is one prepared for that, but then you also have now these experienced offensive linemen, Drew Dahlman, Tooney, Jonah Jackson, who now are all familiar with each other. Jonah Jackson had experience with Ben Johnson. Don't you feel so much better than of years past that the Bears will be prepared for that, and it won't look just like the Eberflus era and that Packers era where they were just absolutely dominating us in that faction and just taking over games for that exact reason? You just gave me like a whole thing of PTSD about that bullet point.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a lot of elements of this team that are so much more buttoned up than we've ever been accustomed to. I think I'm still not like, I think it will be better than the first game, but that's an area where they struggled. And look, this team is not built to drop back and pass, especially without Rome and Luther Burton. They're not built to drop back and pass. Like they want to be a run play action team anyway. So that's not their strength. And no one wants to be in third and longs and stuff like that. But like the Bears were one of the worst teams. I mean, they were just flat out like their offense couldn't function in these situations. And yeah, I'm hoping that it is better. And I'm hoping that without Micah Parsons, you can kind of worry about picking up the entire defensive formation versus just stopping him. Because a lot of the times they do that kind of stuff to get him one-on-ones. And that won't be the case now because they won't have Micah Parsons. I can actually, I probably won't do it because I don't want to delay the stream too much, but I did want to show a play, like what exactly we're looking at, like what you want to see this team do. But I don't actually have it in this tab, but maybe I'll make a TikTok because I have been more active on TikTok about it. I think that's going to be just such a breaking point of the game. And then Center, I don't think that while I hope that part of the Bears game plan gets better on offense, I'm not as pessimistic about the Bears defense as I was heading into the game. I still don't think there's a great answer on what the Bears defense does, but I think you just kind of want to live in a world where you're going to die by 1,000 paper cuts. You don't want to allow the big play on this team because that's what they want to do. If you look at the Packers personnel, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, all those guys, big play threats. So don't allow the big play. Don't allow them to do what they want. Jordan Love wants to chuck it down the field. He wants to throw it over the last line of defense. Don't expose your defense into those situations, which it sucks. You want to be aggressive. You want to dictate the game. But at the end of the day, I just don't think the Bears were, even like when they blitzed, nothing ever got home. Like the Packers just picked it up and were able to pick them apart. So I just don't think the Bears can live that way in this game, and they're going to have to make an adjustment to maybe more conservative style.
Yeah, Jordan Love is a pro. He's a veteran in this. Him and LaFleur have so much experience together. And then anytime you blitz them, man, the guy would just make plays. He was decisive with his first read, right? He's very quick with it. I was watching with our buddy Johnny on the last Bears Packers game, and we said like, man, like you got to stop blitzing him because it's almost benefiting him, Tom.
It was flat out benefiting him.
Yeah. And then we noticed that he's like, dude, you're making him go into his first read so quickly because he's so decisive with it, and he has to, right? And it's working when you're dialing it up with Matt LaFleur. But then like one of the issues is like, you put Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in man coverage, and then Christian Watson makes a move. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I love him. He's not your press man corner or anything like that. And they exploit that. You see them get an opening on a lot of crossers, a lot of those quick first reads. And then we're saying like, man, you know what? Just rush for, give Jordan Love a little bit more time, make him make a complicated decision. And then you've seen that happen when we got that interception. And then my buddy Johnny, and he was really adamant, like, stop blitzing Jordan Love. Let him make these decisions. Give him a little bit more time to throw, and that's when you're gonna get the worst out of him. And that seemed to be true. So, and I understand it from Dennis Allen's point of view, right? You're not getting pressure from your front four, right? You're not having one-on-one matchup beaters, generating pressures or getting sacks, right? And you want to dial it up. You want to be exotic. I totally understand that. Jordan Love and this Packers team is not the team to do it against. And you learned your lesson early on. As good as Jordan Love is with his first read, I think one of the most underrated aspects of Jordan Love's game is his deep ball accuracy. That guy, it reminds me of like prime Russell Wilson, where he just launches that up there and it's in a bucket, man, for his guys to make a play. So again, that's like one of those things you don't want to leave guys susceptible to that, right? You've seen him do it to us a couple weeks prior. So again, you like you said, live by 1,000 paper cuts, bend but don't break. Let him just give him a little bit more time. Let him go through his reads, and don't give him that option to make that very, very quick decision, because he was making us pay for it.
The best, to explain this in EPA terms, Josh Allen, who won the MVP, had one of the better MVP seasons we've seen in quite some time. He averaged plus 0.25 EPA per dropback. And when you put that into terms with what the Packers did to the Bears against the blitz last week, it was a full point of EPA. That is insane. That's like a first down every single play, and which it was. Like it was. That's basically what happened. So yeah, like you just the defense doesn't have the talent to execute that style of defense, and then this is the offense you do not want to do that to, because when you blitz, that's when they're going to take their shots and try to hit those big plays. And Senator, you mentioned Jordan Love's deep ball accuracy. I think just his ability, he's definitely been one of the best deep passers in the league. But his ability to just hang in the pocket and just throw off his back foot, and it's still right where it needs to be. I mean, it's really, really impressive. He's playing some really, really good football right now. But even going back and just watching the plays where they didn't blitz, he definitely doesn't look as confident, right? Like I think if you force him to go through progressions, I'm not saying the offense won't be good for the Packers. Like the Packers are going to score points. The Bears are going to have to score points. That's just the way it's going to be. I don't expect a shutdown performance. This Bears defense is not capable of that. It's just whether or not can you get some turnovers? Can you, get some stops when you need them? I think we started to see that a little bit at times. But I just think that they need to change their game plan and not give the Packers so many easies to rely on it, which is what they did basically whenever they blitzed. And also, too, Snyder, the Bears cannot be as poor against the run as they were. The Packers' run game has not even been that good this year. So the fact that the Packers were able to kind of sustain an efficient run game, a high success rate, that if the Bears, again, pick a struggle, man. Like you can't be a bad pass defense and still then allow the Packers to kind of get whatever they want in the run game, especially even it's not like that creative of a run game. It's not an explosive run game. Josh Jacobs is questionable in this one. He might not even play. So I don't think you need to like dedicate bodies to defend the run, to improve your run defense. But like, come on, D-line, you got to do something better than average, right? Like this is the game we really need him, the defensive line, to just like come to play and just do their job.
Yeah, that's the frustrating, right? You have guys like Javon Dexter, Andrew Billings, Montez Sweat, and then probably rolling out JTS in those run situations. You'd think if, they at least they're supposed to be good run defenders, right? All four of those guys. And you don't typically see it too often, which is frustrating. I do think if Josh Jacobs is out of this game, that's another massive advantage for the Bears. That guy is still one of the best running backs in football at making guys miss. And there were just plays that he was extending, taking it upfield, extending the chains, that I don't think that their backups do that as effectively and as often as Josh Jacobs. So I do think that would be a big advantage. But it's not something I'm going to overlook, because I do think LaFleur and his running scheme and this offensive line is still a threat to be very productive as a running team. But I do think if you miss Josh Jacobs, that is actually a huge advantage for the Bears.
Yeah, it definitely is an advantage, and I still think they'll have like a decent run game. Like Emmanuel Wilson's okay.
Yeah.
You could do worse as your backup. But it's what was frustrating about the Bears game specifically, beyond the defensive line and maybe just the run defense if you're not playing up to par, is they missed a ton of tackles too,
Yeah.
and which again can't happen. They're gonna get Tremaine. Or it sounds like they're gonna get Tremaine Edmonds back in this game, so that'll be huge. Even though I think DeMarco Jackson has played well in his stead. But most likely they'll have both their starting linebackers back. And buddy, you're making too much money to miss tackles. I know Tremaine Edmonds is coming back from an injury, but they're making too much money to miss tackles at the rate that they did. Snyder, the pivotal point of the last game where it was like a backbreaker was that pitch play to Josh Jacobs where he makes like 3 people miss.
Yep.
And they were just like, it wasn't because he made this crazy move or like just broke out of tackles. They were just horrible angles to the ball. And it's like, we cannot have that. Like, you cannot, again, it's self-inflicted mistakes that you just can't, because that put them right in scoring position and they scored right away, like after that play.
I don't know what it is about Montez Sweat. Like, he's supposed to be, like, I thought he was supposed to be like this amazing run defender, right? He's got long arms, super athletic, you should be, right? I don't know, right? I don't really know the technique of being like an edge defender or edge setter or run defender. But when I see Montez Sweat taking an angle at a ball carrier, and even at the quarterback, his feet are always crossed, and he is so easy to cut upfield on. And I think that Josh Jacobs totally seen that, took advantage of that. And then I think like Jalen Johnson ran into someone, and it's like they look like 4 bozos running into each other. And then Josh Jacobs takes it upfield for 20 yards. But I think it starts with Montez Sweat not really setting that edge, keeping his feet square, and just containing Josh Jacobs, right? You didn't need to be super aggressive and tackle him back. You just had to contain him and let that defense kind of close in on him, and it would have been, a gain of like nothing. Or if
I think it would have been a loss. I think they would have held them to a field goal, which would have been like, again, it was a breaking point of that game. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree, Steiner. Like, Montez Sweat has been struggling in the areas that the Bears paid him to be successful at, and at the very least, you should be a lights out run defender, TFLs, a knifer, like an edge setter, and like there's elements of his game where he's still doing that. But like, those are the mistakes you just can't have. You just can't have, because it's like, okay, then that's when you have to have those hard conversations. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but we talked about it. It's like, okay, you're making the second most money on the team on a per year basis. We can't have that. We can't have you making these critical mistakes when this is the very least we should be expecting from you. So yeah, I mean, it was a frustrating defensive performance, because I think the Bears were kind of hitting their head against a brick wall, blitzing them over and over again. And then they couldn't really do much with the run game in terms of creating negatives and splash plays. Like, that's at the very least what this Bears defense should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one play. I've seen it a handful of times this season where they're like running it Montez Sweat's way, and he's like almost just one-on-one with the running back. But I don't know if he's trying to be Superman, but I just hate his technique of his feet being crossed, and then have a good instinctive running back's gonna see that cut up field, and he's behind. Like, all you gotta do is set your feet straight, contain him, and do like kind of damage control right there. So like, that's the thing. Like, you're paying him all that money. By stature, you should at least have a huge high floor. As a run defender, you should be have a good IQ in those scenarios. That, hey, you just gotta set that edge, contain, your defense is gonna close. And you don't see that. So, if you're not getting the pass rush juice and the one-on-one matchup juice, and you can't give me that, like, why are we paying you $25 million? I don't get it. Even though I know he checks all the boxes from a athletic profile, stature profile, height, arm length, everything like that. 4.3 edge, looks like he was made to play 4.3 edge for Dennis Allen in a lab, but you're not really getting the production to match any of that. So again, that's just one of those things that frustrate me. And you'll have a lot of people that say like, oh, he's your prototypical 4.3 edge. He's doing things on the down-to-down basis that you don't see on the stat sheet. But like, do you? Or is that just the the excuse that you're convincing yourself of. So yeah, I mean, I can go on all day about that and my issues with that, but yeah, he needs to clean it up in setting those edges against the run.
For sure. No doubt about it. This team needs to be better. They need to make more of the plays that when they present themselves are there in terms of tackling and whatnot. Just a couple other things about the defense. The Bears, when they don't blitz, they're playing a like an alarming, or they did, I should say. I can't say this for the rest of the season, but against the Packers, they played an alarming amount of cover two, and I thought there was times where it worked. I wish they were more maybe deceitful and disguise things more. They do that every now and then. Like they have these weird looks where Kevin Byard looks like the single high safety. He'll roll down and he'll be the Tampa player. And those are cool. Those definitely, I think, confuse quarterbacks at times, but sometimes they'll just sit and show cover two and play it. And maybe that's just, again, more of the style that the bend don't break style. But maybe if I think this is an offense that is obviously very talented and very explosive. Maybe this is a like time to kind of lean into the bag of tricks and disguise more things. That was something I noticed on tape. It was like, I watched all the non-blitzes, and there's a ton of cover two, which definitely has its pros. Don't get me wrong. Like they had the interception on cover two, and I think they had a sack on cover two. So again, it's not like that was the worst game plan in the world. I get trying to be safe, keep two safeties back there, but I think there are other things you can maybe do to kind of trick this offense and disguise things more.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Right, you have to be in your absolute bag as a play caller. But this is another one. If Caleb plays quick, decisive, and it's a continuation of that Browns game, and you have a balanced attack with that run, it just opens up so much, right? And you combine that, you don't have to, sell out and use all of that effort to stop one guy on their defensive line. Like that's another thing that really opens up. And even though the Bears they're missing two wide receivers, I still like the Bears in this matchup for those reasons.
So yeah, why don't we transition to our final prediction, Snyder? Because you kind of just you led us there anyway. Snyder, who are you picking the Bears to win this game?
I am. Bears are at home. You just played them. They're missing their best player on their team. I thought we kind of figured it out that second half. We had a dominant performance against the Browns, continuing what we did on that second half. I think the Bears take care of business at home. We were that close. I know it close and what ifs, it doesn't matter. We're that close to coming back and beating this Packers team on the road. I think the Bears take care of business, and I think they make a statement. I have the Bears 34-21.
Wow. So you're thinking that's a statement.
The Bears are taking care of business, man. I think it's going to be their most balanced attack. I think Ben Johnson is going to be in his bag. I do think we learn to not blitz Jordan Love. And I think this is this game where Caleb continues what he was doing. And it's that just statement game at home, cold Chicago Bears weather, just an instant classic. So, yeah, I think the Bears take care of business. I think the Bears take care of business big.
Wow, that is quite the prediction.
Bold.
That's as bold as it gets. Snyder, your sweater is pretty bold, and now the prediction, the Bears prediction. I think the Bears will also win this game, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. Again, I think the Bears did figure some stuff out on offense. I think they're going to know where they're strong, and I'm sure the Packers will come out with adjustments. Like the Bears bootlegged a ton in the last game. I'm sure the Packers are going to have some type of counteraction to not allow them to do that. That's where Caleb's really comfortable out on the perimeter on those bootleg plays. I'm sure the Packers will have a different answer for that, but I do think the Bears are going to be able to run the ball. So that's kind of where I think this game starts. And then they do so much off of that just makes it nightmarish to defend for defenses, to where I think the Bears will be able to have success on offense. And I just think that the absence of Micah Parsons it's immeasurable. Like it's so it's such a game changer that it just allows you to, I think, focus your attention elsewhere. That's the best way I could put it. You don't have to worry about getting 4 hands on him every single time you have to pass. It's just more about, can you be sound? Can you stop the schematic things that Jeff Hafley does really, really well? And I think the Bears over the course of the game will be able to do that more times than not.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
The defense is where I still worry about, right? I still worry about, how does this Bears defense slow the Packers offense down? Yes. Is it great that you learn a very tough lesson to not blitz the Packers offense? Absolutely. That's a great lesson to learn. But at the end of the day, the Bears just don't have a lot of players that can force the issue. And whenever you're in that situation, it's tough, right? It's tough. It's a tough way to live. You're kind of holding on to the seat of your pants to hang on. And I'm hoping the Bears can do that for the course of 4 quarters, make the timely stops they need, have a turnover to give this Bears offense the extra chances. And that's kind of why I think the Bears will win this game in a very tight one, 31-28.
Yeah, that's fair. But hey, we're both on the same page. We think the Bears are going to come out with a W. And then moving forward, we have the 49ers and Lions. So this stretch is huge, man. The Bears can take care of business at home, maybe take control of this division, Tom. I mean, this is the game where I do think this could be the Caleb Williams game, to where he just continues to what he's done in the past 6 quarters of football, put it together for a full game. I think the Bears could take care of business if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm hoping that your score prediction is closer to the truth than mine. I'm really hoping the Bears can come through. I'm really hoping that Caleb Williams, like, he has a platform again to show the national audience that he is here, and he has been playing better as of late. I think the first Packers game and the Browns game were pretty 2 strong performances. So I'm glad how it's coming together. I really hope he continues to play fast. And really trust what he's seeing. And we know, like, it's never linear for quarterbacks and other positions, honestly, for young players. So I'm not expecting a perfect performance, but yeah, I mean, he's got the platform, and I expect them to have some success on offense, and definitely a lot of that to be because of him. So yeah, it'll be it's going to be a great game. I cannot wait for this game. I really hope the Bears come out on top. Until we are back to recap this game, keep it real, y'all. Bear down and happy holidays.
Bear down. Happy holidays.